The Renegade Queen, Christina of Sweden's scandalous life and unruly reign. Hey, history fanatics and lovers of untamed spirits. What if a queen, born to command an empire, defied every expectation, every tradition, and every societal norm? What if she walked away from power, not for weakness, but for freedom, and then plunged into a life of even greater scandal, intrigue, and forbidden desires? Today, we're tearing open the fascinating, often shocking, story of Christina, Queen of Sweden. She was hailed as a brilliant mind, educated like a king, yet she was notoriously unconventional, dressing like a man, refusing marriage, and embracing forbidden philosophies. We'll expose the whispers of her court, the shocking plots she endured and instigated, the grand betrayals, and the profound personal price she paid for living authentically. Get ready, because the true tale of Christina is a whirlwind of intellectual brilliance, political turmoil, and a private life that scandalized an entire continent. This is the story of the Renegade Queen. Our story begins in 1626, in the icy, Protestant Kingdom of Sweden, where Christina Augusta was born into a destiny carved from iron and fire. Her father was Gustavus Adolphus, the legendary Lion of the North, a warrior king who reshaped European history during the 30 Years' War. From birth, Christina was different. There were immediate rumors, a peculiar birthmark, a rough and strong voice, and a physical robustness that startled her attendants. Her father, seeing in her a spirit more akin to a son, decreed she should be raised as his male heir, not merely a queen. This was no ordinary royal upbringing. Christina was immersed in an education usually reserved for princes. She mastered philosophy, theology, history, languages, and even military strategy. By the age of 6, she was fluent in German. By 10, Latin, Greek, French, and Italian. She could discuss Descartes with philosophers and military tactics with generals. But while her mind flourished, her spirit chafed against the rigid expectations of royalty. She scorned traditional feminine pursuits, detested marriage, and dismissed the idea of producing an heir, much to the exasperation of her regents and, later, her court. Whispers about her appearance and eccentric behavior soon spread beyond palace walls. She dressed in simple, masculine clothes, neglecting her hair and often appearing disheveled. She rode horses at breakneck speeds, hunted ferociously, and displayed an almost obsessive intellectual energy, sleeping only a few hours a night. This brilliant, unconventional young woman, now crowned queen in 1644, was already an enigma, a walking contradiction of what a monarch, especially a female one, was supposed to be. The stage was set for a reign unlike any other, one where her personal quirks would soon collide explosively with the crushing weight of her crown. As queen, Christina quickly cemented her reputation as one of Europe's most intellectual monarchs. Her court became a vibrant hub of learning, attracting philosophers, scientists, and artists from across the continent, including the famed René Descartes, whom she lured to Sweden. She engaged in intense philosophical debates, often late into the night, displaying a mind far sharper than most men of her era. Yet, amidst this intellectual fervor, a dangerous, deeply personal intrigue began to brew. Sweden was a staunchly Protestant nation, having fought brutally for its faith in the 30 Years' War. Her father, Gustavus Adolphus, was its greatest Protestant hero. But Christina, despite her upbringing, found herself increasingly drawn to the forbidden doctrines of Catholicism. The seeds of conversion were sown through secret correspondences with Catholic figures, particularly her confessor, Father Paolo Casati, and the Jesuit Antonio Macedo. These clandestine exchanges were nothing short of treasonous in the eyes of her Lutheran subjects and constituted an immense political risk. The whispers in the court grew louder. The Queen was too close to foreign Catholic envoys. Her intellectual curiosity was leading her astray. She was neglecting state affairs for obscure theological debates. Behind the hushed tones were genuine fears of a religious upheaval that could plunge Sweden back into chaos. Christina, however, saw it as a personal quest for truth, a spiritual yearning that transcended her earthly crown. The tension between her intellectual freedom and her inherited religious duty created an unbearable pressure cooker. The very act of a Swedish monarch even considering Catholicism was an unprecedented scandal, a betrayal of national identity. This secret internal conflict would soon burst forth, leading to a decision that would shock Europe and redefine her legacy. The pressure became unbearable. Christina, a queen who despised the ceremonial duties of monarchy, found herself increasingly suffocated by the expectations of marriage, an heir, and a state tied to a faith she no longer believed in. In 1654, at the height of her power, she made a decision that sent shockwaves across Europe. She abdicated the throne of Sweden. This wasn't a forced removal, it was a deliberate, calculated act of renunciation, a choice to abandon the most powerful position in her kingdom for personal and spiritual freedom. The official reason was often cited as a desire for peace and a more scholarly life, but the real intrigue lay far deeper. Her abdication was followed by an even greater scandal: her conversion to Catholicism. Secretly baptized earlier, she dramatically made her public conversion in Innsbruck, Austria, shortly after leaving Sweden. For a former Protestant queen, the daughter of the Lion of the North who died fighting for Protestantism, this was an act of profound betrayal and a religious bombshell. The Pope himself, Pope Alexander VII, rejoiced, welcoming her as a prodigal daughter and a symbol of Catholic triumph. She adopted the name Christina Alexandra in honor of the Pope and her father. Her journey through Europe following her abdication was a grand, theatrical spectacle. She traveled with an enormous entourage, lavishly spending money she didn't truly possess. She was celebrated in Catholic cities like Rome, where she made a triumphal entry. But even amidst the parades and pontifical blessings, gossip clung to her. Her masculine attire, her sharp wit, her overt disdain for courtly etiquette, and her passionate intellectual debates with cardinals and scholars fueled relentless whispers. She was viewed by some as an intellectual marvel, by others as an eccentric, unstable woman who had abandoned her sacred duty. Her abdication and conversion were intertwined, a dramatic act of personal liberation that was viewed by many as an unfathomable betrayal, creating a rift between her past and her explosive future. Having given up her crown, Christina settled in Rome, where she quickly established herself as a formidable intellectual and artistic patron, transforming her palazzo into a salon for the city's brightest minds. Yet, her Roman life was far from tranquil. It was a hotbed of intrigue, scandal, and even murder. Christina lived an extraordinarily unconventional life for a woman of her time, let alone a former queen. She actively shunned marriage, and rumors about her sexuality were rampant, with whispers of passionate affections for various women in her entourage and hints of bisexual inclinations. She dismissed traditional gender roles and openly socialized with men and women, challenging the rigid moral codes of papal Rome. These rumors, never definitively proven but constantly circulated, added layers of intrigue and controversy to her already infamous reputation. The most shocking scandal of her Roman years was the infamous Monaldeschi affair in 1657. Christina, convinced that her master of the horse, John Rinaldo Monaldeschi, had betrayed her secrets, possibly revealing her clandestine conversion or financial dealings, had him executed in cold blood within her own palace, the Palazzo Farnese, under her direct orders. Monaldeschi was stabbed to death by her guards. This act, a brutal assertion of royal prerogative in a city where she held no formal power, horrified many European courts and even caused diplomatic crises. It was a stark, chilling display of the cruelty well used that Machiavelli might have endorsed, demonstrating her willingness to eliminate perceived threats without compunction. The affair cemented her reputation for ruthlessness and a volatile temper, adding a dark stain to her intellectual luster. Despite having renounced one throne, Christina harbored ambitions for others. She plotted, sometimes with the French, to gain the throne of Naples and even considered reclaiming the Swedish crown. These intrigues, though ultimately unsuccessful, highlight her enduring thirst for political influence and a Machiavellian drive to assert her will. Her life in Rome was a dazzling, dangerous tapestry woven from intellectual pursuits, scandalous personal choices, and a chilling willingness to resort to extreme measures, ensuring that even in exile, Christina remained a figure of immense fascination and endless gossip. Christina lived for another 3 decades in Rome, a queen without a kingdom, but never without influence. She continued to be a fierce patron of the arts, accumulating a vast collection of paintings, sculptures, and manuscripts. Her intellectual salons remained a magnet for Europe's leading thinkers, solidifying her reputation as a force in the Republic of Letters. She founded academies, supported musicians, and continued her prolific correspondence, weighing in on European politics and philosophy. Yet, Her life remained marked by constant financial difficulties, largely due to her extravagant spending and the refusal of Sweden to fully fund her abdication allowance. This led to persistent plotting and desperate attempts to reclaim her finances or even new thrones. She frequently clashed with the papacy over her unconventional behavior, her disdain for court etiquette, and her insistence on maintaining her personal freedoms. Christina died in Rome in 1689, a solitary figure whose passing barely registered with the same fanfare as her arrival. She was buried in the Vatican's Grotte Vatican, one of only 3 women to be granted that honor, a testament to her unique place in history despite her controversies. Her refusal to marry and produce an heir meant the end of the direct Vasa line, a stark personal choice that had dynastic implications. Her legacy is one of profound contradiction. She was a woman ahead of her time, intellectually brilliant and fiercely independent, yet also ruthless and politically volatile. She embraced freedom from the crown, only to chafe against the new constraints of her adopted home. She sought spiritual truth but was accused of murder and ambition. Christina's life remains a compelling enigma, a testament to the power of individual will against the backdrop of immense historical forces. So, what are we to make of Christina, Queen of Sweden, the Minerva of the North, the renegade queen, the woman who traded a crown for a conscience, then found herself embroiled in plots and passions? Her story isn't just a historical footnote, it's a profound exploration of personal freedom, the burdens of power, and the complex nature of identity. She was a queen who broke every rule, challenging gender norms, religious dogma, and political expectations. Her dramatic abdication, her controversial conversion, and the scandalous murder in her Roman palazzo all paint a picture of a woman driven by intellect, ambition, and a relentless desire to live on her own terms, no matter the cost. Her life reminds us that true power isn't always found on a throne, but in the courage to defy, to question, and to choose one's own path, even when that path is riddled with controversy and dark intrigue. What do you think of Christina's audacious life? Was she a visionary, a madwoman, or simply a fascinating human being trapped by the expectations of her era? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this journey into royal rebellion and historical scandal intrigued you, hit that subscribe button. Because here, we're always unearthing the most compelling, controversial, and utterly vital stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about the past. See you in the next one.